Yeah, and so we're just doing some small quality of life fixes. Previously, the grid cells, upon applying them as movement and selected or attacked cells, materials, they needed to do more than what they were doing, because I have each grid cell has a random selection of sides that have enabled. They did not look right. Let's say, for example, you had a character on a hill and you selected that character to move. The grid cells would light up as movement cells, but you would still see the side sprites applied to them through that, and it looked messy. Also, for the enemy AI movement functionality, I was not applying the same scaling that I applied to the player's version of it. I would really thin it out, so the entire grid block was scaled down, I think, by Z. You know what? I'll just show you. Yeah, so you may or may not notice the sides here, perhaps more prevalent here with the backdrop. There's a bit of grass there poking out, you see. That'll disappear when I select that grid, you see. But before, this was not the case. Also, selecting anywhere around here, there was I do not know how to describe it. When you'd select it, because as I was just saying, the whole grid cell was applied with that material that you see there, the yellow, well, it's more like a flash shader code. It didn't look right with it without it being scaled. When I say scaled, you'll see with the other grid cells that have heightened here. So if I select this, you see that beneath it, it's invisible, but it's not invisible. I've squashed it. So if we pay attention to all the sides here, upon movement, there you go. And that is just, it's much more clearer, easier on the eye, and then they should go back exactly how they were before. In 3, 2, 1, yeah. So that's what I was talking about in regards to that. Oh, and also previously we only had the idle animations for the back-facing sprites, but that is not the case now. We can move, and you can see them running that way now, which is great. Even then, more quality of life fixes can be applied, because I can select movement here, and then I'll switch up the isometric camera angle view halfway through that, and it will still play it. It will still play the back facing animation. I've got to be quick though. So, go. See she's running backwards now. But anyway, it's looking much more better than before. Small steps, brick by brick. What I'm looking at the code at the minute is I've applied the movement scaling for the grid cells for the enemy AI, which I missed previously, but you will notice the selected grid cell for the enemy AI is still being applied to the entire grid cell. Look, you can see a yellow block there in full. It's not being squashed, it's not scaled, so I need to make sure that I do that for the enemy AI as well. Oh my days, 44 references. This is what we are looking for. Network grid cell object dot grid cell material ID enum cell default selected. Server handle battle grid click now. Player. Target. Last one. We've got any guard clauses? Why? Hold on. That's not what I'm looking for. Where do I scale it? Yeah, so. This is great for many edge case scenarios you don't want. It's great for cleanup in your code. Like if you have a lot of different states to check against, you can slap them all into a method that just makes these checks for you and returns a simple Boolean value, like I've done here. Yeah, so the enemy AI is not, seemingly not pushing through with that. Plus, of course, that's not the state that it's in. Target move to. What was I checking against? Move. Enemy AI move. Yeah. feeling that literally will be the fix. I mean, it's not often that is the case. When you think you've got it right first time when you code in, it's typically not. I think it's worthwhile applying some shader effect to these trees. Let's say if there's any, we could identify whether or not at a certain point in the code where it matters and it's most optimized, whether or not there are trees or obstacles, anything big that may hide the character, whether that's true or not. So in this case we have two trees that are within bounds, the cells next to the cell containing the player being true. We could apply an effect to the tree where it's semi-transparent. Select all these as done and check our selected cell effect with the enemy AI. Yeah, it's done it, yeah. You see that, that's much more, even more noticeable there. It is indeed doing it. It's good, great stuff. Drawn in with small little fixes like that too much. It's polished really, I should not be polishing. I need to pivot a little bit. I need more enemy AI. I need more enemies and some animations aren't finished for some of them either, but I think I'll do that in the background. I'll not record doing any more of that. What I need to be looking at is the other part of the game. So the game ideally wants to be segregated, separated into three main working parts. Obviously, clearly one working part is the battleground field that we see here, which is going to be the main one really. That's got to be spot on. All of it's got to be spot on. But we have another section. You'll see that we call it local area scene here, as opposed to battleground scene, battle area scene. And what this is supposed to serve as fundamentally is an alternate version to what we see with the battleground, except for gameplay is drastically different. You're not moving around strategically and tactically, selecting grid cells and maneuvering squad members and attacking and so on and so forth. You want to be moving around freely in this section of the game, but using most of the tech that's already in place. The camera angle probably wants to be working differently, and I did have a really basic working version of that just before I began working on this demo. And during towards the end of the prototype phase, but that was before I made these changes to how the network battle character objects work. and therefore we have a separation of concerns. We have a separate version of that for the local area character players. But this has not been touched upon since these changes have been made to the network battle character objects and other associated working and moving cogs. So I don't think this is going to fire up straight away, but we can just sort of watch me muddle on through with this anyway. Why not? I do recall having to change something here in the game manager. On server connect. Right, so if that's the, yeah, BattleGround. Otherwise, look into that. We're going to need these open, aren't we? Solid principles, single responsibility, kind of, somewhat. What was that one? Create era? No, it's not that one. Oh yeah. And issues ahead. Yeah, first thing. Character shadow. Right. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Great. Play controller. Line 98. Play controller. Here we go. Line 98. Network battle camera. Yeah, we should not. Oh. Camera, local area camera. Yeah. It's not the right thing. We'll need that though. Camera sync. Probably need that. Fact. There we go. What else we got here? Okay, let's clean that up. Do we do 2 for loops? 2 if checks in that for loop. So if game run it actually going back to what I was talking about before I open this up. So these are the three main sections of the working game demo that need to exist. In part, with it being a vertical slice demo. BattleGround we've seen a fair amount of. Local area we're going to begin to start taking a look at. And the overworld will be acting as an overworld obviously, but they'll be using a similar technology to what we're using for the local area and battleground scenes, but it'll be scaled and work somewhat differently. Obviously, the idea is to have a large 2x2 grid with clouds and terrain and any what you would expect to see on an overworld, but using that tech that does not exist at all at this moment in time. But I've got a very good idea on how I'm going to go about that, and we're working towards that now. We don't want to spend too long working in this local area part. Just for clarity sakes, to be clear, the local area, we're just going to get something like a campsite working for the player to explore. I want to make it so you have your squad members also follow you. So you move your squad leader about your player, which ideally eventually will be customized. So if your name's Rick, you create your squad leader Rick, give him a name, and this will be communicated with other players connected playing the game with you. And then the squad members that you've built up will follow you around like a sort of snake-like logical way. You ever played Yoshi's Island on the Nintendo back in the day? Yoshi's Egg sort of followed the Yoshi of that, kind of like that. And we also want to have, I don't know, perhaps a little shopkeep functionality there. So a traveller merchant with his table art and his wares, and some basic functionality demonstrating the ability to purchase and sell equipment such as weapons, armour to begin with, and have that there in the campsite. And then the overworld, you will be very restricted in the demo, so you'll be forced to only explore this campsite and several different battlegrounds, one or two, just to give the player an idea of the potential and what it could be, whilst trying to polish that up best as possible. So maybe by this point, 3 to 4, actually no, around 3 months roughly of sustained continuous effort and work. It'll get done either way, no matter what's going off life wise. I will make time for it. Anyway, that's our fix for that. So we've got that there. Network, local area camera dot instance. We should have that, yeah. There we go. Get some nice reference guards in. We'll have a shadow there again, because I need to do a tiny bit of work to implement and incorporate the new animation changes. So it was relying, as we're using a separation of concerns, the single responsibility principle from solid principles. We reuse assets in certain logic, but it's not from the same source to prevent. It's just a good way of designing it, really. So I need to find the local area character object that exists. It should exist. No, nowhere battle soldier, bowman. It's done the same way. There we go. Oh, we're just using the hero. Okay. Run this quickly. Okay. Yeah, we have some work to do here. Oh, nice. My still working nicely here. It's good. Yeah, so the idea is to have him animating, obviously, moving freely. And as I previously stated, your squad members behind you. Perhaps maybe some indicator above the player. Actually, now I'll probably reuse the battle circle indicators with the associated 170 FPS. Oh yeah. With the associated colour for connected players. Because I'd imagine you need some way to indicate who's player 1 and player 2, so on and so forth. Especially if you have the same or similar squad members, it gets very confusing who's who. So we need to see what the hell's going off with character. Why is he not animating? Network local area character object. Exactly what I need. The animation strings look correct. So I need to look at movement code that I did have open a minute ago. Is that not being initiated? Or is it being called and oh. That'll be why. Right. That was incredibly stupid. So we need to set the enemy. Been using that. Yeah. it's not doing that. Very annoying. Move, what's going on here? Well, I have a hero animator. Thing we do, you know. Okay, that's going to be an easy short-term fix for now. I knew it. This is not the one that's been set. Yeah. We're going to have to do it this way for now. Just to get the ball rolling, that's small work to set up. Things up when I'm moving around. Oh, crying out loud. Single responsibilities, separation of concerns. Very good. So it's not. This is bad. We're not gonna. It won't remain that way. As I said, I just want to see. The thing moving about, animated whilst moving. Yes. Some of the updated logic regarding back-facing sprite animations. Just make sure it's in place for this version. But yeah, the idea as you can see, is this. Move around with your squad members. I'll probably play around with the camera angle here. I might not keep it fixed like this. Have some tent props and torches, campfire, bed, sleep, rest, merchant vendor, camera angle changes, UI, work for purchasing and buying and selling items, further UI work for equipping your squad members with these things. Yeah, got a fair chunk to get on with there, but once it's in place, just as is the case with the BattleGround, it's just a case of iterating, building upon it, tweaking and fixing. It's certainly getting there. It's getting there. Just want to seeing with different equipment. Spawn you in with breastplate, sword, shield and all. Make sure that's behaving. You know what? This video's getting a little too long. I don't feel like we've covered much here. It spawned in initially without this, but then when I moved, it was applied. It was really quick. I don't know if you noticed it on screen then or not. But yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it at that. Pretty short video, really. I think. I'm gonna move forward and get on with a lot of the things that I've spoken about in this, and I'll be back with another one when I've got some of this groundwork done and in place. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I'll catch you in the next one.